My fiancé cares more about his mom than me, and it's destroying everything we have together. My fiancé and I started seeing each other 2.5 years ago. We originally met in college and it immediately clicked, but we decided to stay close friends for an entire year before starting to date. After a couple of weeks of regular talking, he asked me to join him and his mom for a coffee, since we coincidentally bumped into each other in a store. I went with them and she surprisingly knew an awful lot about me upfront. I didn't think much of it, since I also told my mom about meeting someone great and described a few details. It was then that I realized that he still lived with his mom, being 24 at the time. Obviously this is not a big deal, a lot of people are in a similar situation, and since we all didn't earn much or even earn any money during college. It was only after we actually started seeing each other officially that I noticed he has a strangely close relationship with his mom. He jokingly said a couple of times that he would always choose her, his mom, over me. Then he almost always took his mom the places we discovered together, to show her how cool these places were. This has resulted in us having few places that we can think of as us exclusive. A few months ago I had major troubles in my shared flat and needed to move out rather quickly. He then offered me to move in with them, which I gladly took. I would have lived with my own family had they not lived too far away to still continue my daily routine. I never had a real close relationship to neither my dad nor my mom. Therefore I try to be extra understanding and careful about that and try to tolerate as much as possible, since I really don't know how a healthy parental relationship should look like. But there were a few things that were just too much. They have their ritual on going out for lunch and coffee every Saturday, and I was always welcome to join them. One Saturday I was feeling unwell so I couldn't come. He said that it was cool to have an OG day. I was hurt and even told him before they left, and he shrugged it off by saying he was joking. His mom even said to him, "Can I get hugs and kisses from you, sweetheart? I miss this, since I don't get them since your fiancé moved in with us." She said this while I was standing right next to him. He then started encouraging me a few weeks later to create an OnlyFans account together, to possibly fund our future and our wedding. For some reason I asked him if it was just to finance the wedding, but he surprised me by saying that we could also fund his mom to go to university again just for fun, just because she feels like entering a course out of curiosity which costs a crap ton of money. Oh, and don't forget about the Birkin bag that he wants to buy her too with this money we'd make for my body. It's also frustrating as he rarely wants to be intimate with me when she's somewhere in the house. I feel like we're teenagers awkwardly waiting for her to go out with friends before we can get jiggy. I'm getting more and more frustrated. Last week I received an offer for a scholarship, for my next education, which is going to be the most expensive one so far. The conditions to signing up are that the 5 years following my graduation, I must work wherever they need me within the country I live in. If I manage to complete this, I'll get 80% of the paid tuition fees back. After asking him if he'd be willing to move out of the city to the countryside, he quickly said that I can find my own place and he'll stay with his mom in the city. Today's incident has left me seriously reconsidering my relationship. My partner and I, who have both had a challenging year, planned a vacation together, never intending to include his mother. However, when she inquired about our travel plans, he awkwardly suggested she could join if she preferred. This prompted a discussion where she admitted her over-involvement in his life. She then told me that she is softly trying to chuck him out since she is still paying for most of his living expenses and that she wants to enjoy her recent retirement. She also told me that she stopped the extensive hugs and kisses back then after he reached a certain height where he dug his head into her bosoms, and it was the moment she realized she had to ease things out. I'm struggling with how to process this, especially as it impacts our plans and my view of our future together. As someone from a less affectionate family background, I'm trying to understand if it's worth persevering in this relationship and how to help him establish a life with me, separate from his mother's influence. I'm curious if others have faced similar challenges and how they resolved them. This situation echoes earlier concerns I've had since we started dating over 2 years ago. He's always had an unusually close bond with his mother, even jokingly prioritizing her over me and frequently including her in our activities. When I moved in with them due to housing issues, this dynamic became more apparent. His mother's overt affection and his suggestion of an OnlyFans account to support not only our future but also his mother's whims further complicated things. The final straw was his unwillingness to relocate with me for my scholarship opportunity, choosing to stay with his mother instead. Today I am heavily questioning if I want him to be my future husband, how I can help him to start his own life, our life, if it is worth the fight. Has anyone had a similar experience? Update 1. After thinking about all the advice I was given, and talking to my therapist about how to approach it in the best way possible, I made the decision to sit them both down at a table and express how their behavior is inflicting me, my mental health and everyday life. Right after finishing my monologue, his mom tried to tell me how this form of living is actually normal from an evolutionary biological perspective and tried to compare us three to wolves and their packs, but didn't bother to mention apes once. Then she went on how we're doing good economical and environmental work by sharing a flat and that we could make this work somehow. She genuinely wanted to save the situation but honestly made everything worse by that. They both know that the scholarship I previously mentioned was to become a doctor. Therefore, I just sat there and grinned as I said to her face how enlightened she's made me and that I will now leave this apartment, knowing I am now one step closer to learn about real biological evolution, and how these living conditions are nothing but vile and mental. My fiancé wanted to sit down with me alone after and was willing to put everything behind in order to keep me. I know this sounds exactly like what I originally wanted, but I just know from being his best friend, girlfriend, and now fiancé, that he is not ready for that right now. I left him the business card of a highly recommended trauma therapist that is specialized on complex post-traumatic stress disorder patients that experience trauma within their family. I'll offer to drive him there and pick him up in order to be able to decompress in silence in the car, but he'll have to do therapy all by himself. He immediately agreed since he saw how serious this situation was and called the therapist right away. He'll start to go to trauma therapy from next week on. We didn't inform his mom on that since this situation is already messed up enough. Update 2. I've made up my mind that this is not a life worth living. I'll take the scholarship and go to med school. My fiancé and I called it quits today and have broken off the engagement officially. We still love each other but agreed on that it's best to see what time and therapy can change. It's a 4 hours drive and my fiancé will always be welcome. Currently not as my romantic partner, but hopefully as my dearest friend. Maybe not the ending you were hoping. Everyone gets a happy ending, but not everyone is happy in the end.